the ridiculous. Reduction to the ridiculous. J. Sunderland.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, Madam Contest Chair, distinguished judges, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. Tonight, I'd like to touch on a topic that we're all somewhat familiar with as Toastmasters, and that is the issue of stage fright. Another word for stage fright is fear, particularly when it's encouraged by our fight and flight response. Now, we all know what that means, but what happens to our bodies is that our brain is filled with excess oxygen and adrenaline. It's getting us ready to fight or run away. But when we don't do that, our brain has to do something with that extra oxygen and adrenaline. And so it starts to create symptoms: dry mouth, sweaty palms, nervous stomachs, shakiness in different parts of our bodies, or just flat out forgetting what we're supposed to do. For decades, people have been trying to tell us how to get rid of fear when we're in front of an audience. Well, that's about as likely as getting rid of your heartbeat when you're in front of an audience, because both are natural processes. So I'm not here today to tell you how to get rid of fear. Instead, I'm going to teach you a technique called reduction to the ridiculous, which will help you manage that fear in much the same way that actors, politicians, and public speakers manage their fear. This process, however, goes beyond just stage fright. I've used this process for jumping out of planes, diving off of 100-foot cliffs, and even giving an online presentation for the first time, which was by far the scariest of those three activities. When our brain is stuck with this extra oxygen and adrenaline, we need to manage that fear-based approach. One of the things that we can do is reduce it to the ridiculous. To do that, I would like all of you to close your eyes for just a moment and imagine with me that you're experiencing butterflies in your stomach. Now, the technique bases itself on imagination and ridiculousness. The more ridiculous you make this, the better. So with your eyes still closed, I'd like you to imagine standing in front of your body and looking at your stomach. As you look at your stomach, imagine a window where you see through that window hundreds of colorful butterflies just flying around. There's iridescent blues and greens, bright yellows, black and white. They're just flying around having a good time. Now I want you to imagine opening that window and hearing the creak of the hinges. Suddenly, butterflies fly out of your stomach and fill the room. You might even imagine one of these colorful butterflies landing on the nose of someone in your audience. If that gives you a little giggle inside, you've made it. You can open your eyes now. When you giggle inside, or you get a little funny feeling, you're in a dichotomous situation. You can't be terrified and at the same time be laughing with something that's funny. So reduction to the ridiculous tries to help your brain use that oxygen and adrenaline by creating mental images and then interjecting humor in a way that eliminates the nervousness that you feel when that process is going on. Now, I know that a lot of you think that this is a bunch of hocus pocus, but I will promise you, if you practice this technique on dry mouth, shaky hands, nervous stomach, shakiness anywhere in your body, or even forgetting your lines, that it's going to work. When I talk about reduction to the ridiculous, it's often based on fear-based treatments for patients of psychotherapy. Now, I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on TV. But the reality is, for many years, politicians, speakers, preachers, and other people who've gotten up in front of stages will get up to give a presentation, and even if they mess up, they seem to go on without skipping a beat. How do they do that? Well, the reality is they've learned to manage their fear. Managing fear makes fear your friend, because one of the side effects when you start managing fear is that excess oxygen and adrenaline turn into what I personally call polish. You will perform better at whatever task you happen to be involved in. So if I could leave you with any piece of advice when you're dealing with the physical ailments that come along with fear, is to remember that fear is your friend when you reduce it to the ridiculous. Madam Toastmaster.